Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavoratii, bringing you information on the Idaho 4 case. Once again, this is an entertainment channel. I'm not here to slander anyone. These are my opinions. With that being said, let's get started. Today, I want to discuss a topic that I've never brought up before. And nowhere in any of my videos have I addressed this specific topic. And it's something that seems to have been questioning more and more here recently as I look at other creators' channels. So what I want to do today is show you some excerpts from some creators. One is going to be Unfiltered Lucky, and another one is Forensic Frenzy. Now they're going to bring up the subject at hand that I've never really discussed, because I'll explain why here in just a minute. But Unfiltered Lucky, as I've mentioned, he's always got really good questions. You know, he's very good at coming up with questions. Now, Forensic Frenzy is going to come up with a few questions about the same subject. Now, she's going to do it in a different manner than Unfiltered Lucky, and coming from a different mindset and question it in a little bit different way. But let's let them get the questions out there. And then I'm going to answer those questions with a video from Harsh. Now, I've been watching Harsh for a long time, and Harsh has a lot of knowledge when it comes to this case and specific details about this case, because he has been covering it from day one. I also like Harsh because he's got a good sense of humor, and you know, he's got that British accent, so he uses words like rubbish instead of trash. So I always find that comical. But I think it's going to explain my perspective on this aspect of this case and why I've never gone down this path. But with that being said, let's get started.
If an eyewitness saw the intruder leaving the house at 4:17 a.m. and never calls 911, that's a pretty good indication that they're buying time. But why? Hey everyone, it's Lucky with Unfiltered Lucky. And today I want to talk a little bit about something that I've been thinking about as far as Dylan and Bethany, as well as the 8-hour time gap that it took for 911 to be called. Now I know that I continue going back to Dylan and Bethany, and there's a reason for that. It's because I believe that Dylan and Bethany, along with the 8-hour time gap that it took to call 911, are key to what happened that night at the King Roadhouse. Now, there's a lot of possibilities when it comes to the aspects of these crimes. But one aspect of these crimes where there's really not a lot of possibilities is the fact that Dylan saw the intruder at 4:17 a.m. and never called 911. That's a very strange aspect of these crimes, and I think that that's one of the aspects that draws a lot of us, to have questions about these Idaho 4 crimes. It doesn't make sense that Dylan saw the intruder at 4:17 a.m. and then just went back to bed. I'm not really going for the whole, frozen shock phase. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, I definitely agree that Dylan could have been shocked when she saw the intruder if she had heard everything that was going on upstairs. But then to not call 911 after she saw this intruder, there's just really no explanation for that, in my opinion. Now, is it possible that Dylan and Bethany were maybe covering for somebody or people? Is it possible that Dylan and Bethany knew the individual or individuals who committed these crimes, and that's the reason that they didn't call 911?
Of the roommates. So if the roommates are involved, I want to start with no matter who is involved. I want to know why it had to be done on this night. If the roommates are involved, or no matter who is involved, I want to understand the catalyst. That goes across the board, including the current defendant. I want to understand why this night and what the catalyst was. But if the roommates were involved together, right? Because we're going to go through this as if the roommates were involved together and then as if one of them was involved but not the other. And I have questions that some are the same, but some are different based upon togetherness or separation. So if they're involved together, I want to know, did they know the attackers or are they the attackers? And regardless, why allow an 8-hour time gap before calling 911? Doesn't that make you suspicious? If you know that you did it, and you know that you're going to say you were in the house, and you're going to have this elaborate story about the man who was in the house, and you know that you called the DoorDash and set it all up, and you know all of that. So why would you not call 911 sooner? Making yourself look a little less suspicious.
Okay, now when the details of this case first came to light, that particular subject that they were discussing was a bit puzzling for me. And those questions that they are bringing up, especially Unfiltered Lucky, I mean, definitely it came to my mind as well. But what got me to eliminate that entire aspect of this case as not pertaining to anything involved in this case was a video I watched a long time ago from Harsh. And here's that video, and hopefully it'll help you understand why, for myself at least, I don't feel like the roommates aspect of this case pertains to anything serious.
Right, two people who claimed to be at the house with the roommates when the bodies were discovered quickly came to the surviving roommate's defense and wrote that the roommates woke up, went upstairs to the kitchen and noticed the sliding glass door was open, and it was during that time they discovered Ethan. They didn't say where he was found on that floor, but it was so horrific that both girls went into shock and ran out of the house. One of the roommates fainted and the other was beyond hysterical and not making any sense. Their frantic actions while coming out of the house caught the attention of people walking past. The people responding on the victim's IG claimed to be two of those people. They implied that the roommate who fainted had already dialed 911, but was so distraught that she fainted before she could give any info that the dispatcher could understand. The info that the bystander who picked up the roommate's phone could give the 911 dispatcher was she just saw her friend run out of the house and faint. So that obviously clarifies why the call to 911 stated that someone was unconscious, not that someone, that was something that a lot of people had queried before. So that's how the 911 call was made on the roommate's phone and by someone else, and why the call went out for an unconscious person. While that bystander was on the phone with 911, the other roommate was hysterically trying to explain that something was wrong with Ethan.
How to store and sort all your photos and videos in seconds. No computer knowledge required. This time.
By this point, several more people had stopped to see what was happening, and one or two of them went into the house to see if they could help him. There were multiple people in the yard at that time, and those people began contacting their friends that someone in the house was badly hurt. Someone called Ethan's brother Hunter to tell him something was wrong with his brother because he lived close to the house, and someone called one of the other victim's boyfriends as he was also Ethan's best friend. They didn't go into detail on if either of those boys had arrived before the paramedics did, but it did kind of sound like they did. They didn't go into detail on what kind of injuries Ethan suffered. They also didn't say if anyone went to check on the other roommates before the paramedics arrived, but it's somewhat implied that someone had.
So in closing, I think that answers every question that anybody may have about those two roommates. Maybe not the questions about what they had seen before they had gone to sleep. I believe that the roommate upstairs and the roommate downstairs both seen something. The roommate upstairs story has come out because it matches law enforcement narrative. I don't believe the roommate downstairs story has come out, though, because it contradicts law enforcement's narrative at this point. But I believe it will come out during the trial. So let me know what you think. I look forward to seeing your comments, your criticisms. Like, subscribe, and till next time, Pavoratii out.